Oh, hey, Monday. How you doing, girl, guy, whatever? It's Monday. There might be some guys who watch devotions. I don't know. I'm looking at the wrong camera. All right, it's February 7th. Did you know it's Garth Brooks' birthday? It's a useless piece of information that I'll never forget because it's the same birthday as my friend Heidi. Happy birthday, Heidi. And I just have always remembered that it's Garth Brooks' Garth Brooks' birthday. It's his birthday. All right. February 7th. The 10 Commandments. Yay! Exodus 21 through 21, 1446 or 1280 BC. Then God gave the people all of these instructions. I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind or an image of anything in the heavens or of the earth or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even the children in the third and fourth generation of those who rejected me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Remember to observe the Sabbath day and keep it holy. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath day of rest dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your livestock, and any foreigners living among you. For in 6 days the Lord made the heavens, the earth, and the sea, and everything in them. But on the seventh day he rested. That is why the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and set it apart as holy. Honor your mother and your father. Then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord is giving you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You must not testify falsely against your neighbor. You must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. When the people heard the thunder and the loud blast of the ram's horn, and when they saw the flashes of lightning and the smoke billowing from the mountain, they stood at a distance, trembling with fear. And they said to Moses, If you speak to us, we will listen, but don't let God speak directly to us, or we will die. Don't be afraid, Moses answered them, for God has come in this way to test you, and so that fear of him will keep you from sinning. As the people stood in the distance, Moses approached the dark cloud where God was. Proper use of altars, Exodus 20:22 through 26. And the Lord said to Moses, Say this to the people of Israel. You saw for yourselves that I spoke to you from heaven. Remember that you must not make any idols of silver or gold to rival me. Build for me an altar made of earth, and offer your sacrifices to me, your burnt offerings and peace offerings, your sheep and goats, and your cattle. Build my altar wherever I cause my name to be remembered, and I will come to you and bless you. If you use stones to build my altar, use only natural, uncut stones. Do not shape the stones with a tool, for that would make the altar unfit for holy use. And do not approach my altar by going up steps. If you do, someone might look under your clothing and see your nakedness. Fair treatment of slaves, Exodus 21, 1 through 11. These are the regulations you must present to Israel. If you buy a Hebrew slave, he may serve you for no more than 6 years. Set him free in the 7th year, and he will owe you nothing for his freedom. If he was single when he became your slave, he shall leave single. But if he was married before he came, then his wife must be freed with him. If his master gave him a wife while he was a slave, and they had sons or daughters, then only the man will be free in the 7th year, but his wife and children still belong to his master. But a slave may declare, I love my master, my wife, and my children, and I don't want to go free. If he does this, his master must present himself before God. Then his master must take him to the door or doorpost and publicly pierce his ear with an awl. After that, the slave will serve his master for life. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she will not be freed at the end of the 6 years as men are. If she does not satisfy her owner, he must allow her to be bought back again. But he is not allowed to sell her to foreigners, since he is the one who broke the contract with her. But if the slave's owner arranges for her to marry his son, he may no longer treat her as a slave, but as a daughter. If a man who has married a slave wife takes another wife for himself, he must not neglect the rights of his first wife to food, clothing, and sexual intimacy. If he fails any of these three obligations, she may leave as a free woman without making any payment. Cases of personal injury. Exodus 21:12 through 36. Anyone who assaults and kills another person must be put to death. But if it was simply an accident permitted by God, I will appoint a place of refuge where the slayer can run for safety. However, if someone deliberately kills another person, then the slayer must be dragged, even from my altar, and be put to death. Anyone who strikes father or mother must be put to death. Kidnappers must be put to death, whether they are caught in possession of their victims or have already sold them as slaves. Anyone who dishonors father or mother must be put to death. Now, suppose two men quarrel. If one hits the other with a stone or a fist, and the injured person does not die but is confined to bed, if he is later able to walk outside again, even with a crutch, the assailant will not be punished but must compensate his victim for lost wages and provide for his full recovery. If a man beats his male or female servant with a club and the slave dies as a result, the owner must be punished. But if the slave recovers within a day or two, the owner shall not be punished, since the slave is his property. Now, suppose two men are fighting, and in the process they accidentally strike a pregnant woman, so she gives birth prematurely. If no further injury results, the man who struck the woman must pay the amount of compensation the woman's husband demands and the judge approves. But if there is further injury, punishment must match the injury: a life for a life, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burn for a burn, a wound for a wound, a bruise for a bruise. If the man hits his male or female slave in the eye and the eye is blinded, he must let the slave go freely to compensate for the eye. But if a man knocks out the tooth of his male or female servant, he must let the slave go free to compensate for the tooth. If an ox gores a man or woman to death, the ox must be stoned, and its flesh may not be eaten. In such a case, however, the owner will not be held liable. But suppose the ox had a reputation for goring, and the owner had been informed but failed to keep it under control. If the ox then kills someone, it must be stoned, and then the owner must also be put to death. However, the dead person's relatives may accept payment to compensate for the loss of life. The owner of the ox may redeem his life by paying whatever is demanded. The same regulation applies if the ox gores a boy or a girl. If the ox gores a slave, either male or female, the animal's owners must pay the slave owner 30 silver coins. The ox must be stoned. Suppose someone digs or uncovers a pit and fails to cover it, and then an ox or a donkey falls into it. The owner of the pit must pay full compensation to the owner of the animal, but then he keeps the dead animal. If someone's ox injures a neighbor's ox and the injured ox dies, then the two owners must sell the live ox and divide the price equally between them. They must also divide the dead animal. But if the ox had a reputation for goring, yet its owner failed to keep it under control, he must pay full compensation, a live ox for a dead one, and he may keep the dead ox. Protection of property, Exodus 22:1 through 15. If someone steals an ox or a sheep and then kills or sells it, the chief must pay back 5 oxen for each ox stolen, and 4 sheep for each sheep stolen. If a thief is caught in the act of breaking into a house and is struck and killed in the process, then the person who killed the thief is not guilty of murder. But if it happens in daylight, the one who kills the thief is guilty of murder. The thief who is caught must pay in full price for everything he stole. If he cannot pay, he must be sold as a slave and pay for his theft. If someone steals an ox or donkey or a sheep and is found in the thief's possession, then the thief must pay double the value of the stolen animal. If the animal is grazing in a field or a vineyard and the owner lets it stray into someone else's field to graze, then the animal's owner must pay compensation, but compensation from the best of his own grain or grapes. If you are burning thorn bushes and fire gets out of control and spreads into another person's field, destroying the sheaves or the uncut grain or the whole crop, the one who started the fire must pay for the lost crop. Suppose someone leaves money or goods with a neighbor for safekeeping, and they are stolen from the neighbor's house. If the thief is caught and the compensation is double the value of what was stolen, but if the thief is not caught, the neighbor must appear before God, who will determine if he stole the property. Suppose there is a dispute between two people who both claim to own a particular ox, donkey, sheep, or article of clothing, or any lost property. Both parties must come before God, and the person who God declares guilty must pay double the compensation to the other. Now, suppose someone leaves a donkey, or ox, or sheep, or any other animal with a neighbor for safekeeping, but it dies, or is injured, or is taken away, and no one sees what happens. The neighbor must then take an oath in the presence of the Lord. If the Lord confirms that the neighbor did not steal the property, the owners must accept the verdict, and no payment will be required. But if the animal was indeed stolen, and the guilty person must pay the compensation to the owner. If it was torn to pieces by a wild animal, the remains of the carcass must be shown as evidence, and no compensation will be required. If someone borrows an animal from a neighbor, and it is injured or dies when the owner is absent, the person who borrowed it must pay full compensation. But if the owner was present, no compensation is required, and no compensation is required if the animal was rented, for this loss is covered by the rental fee. They have rental insurance even back in Exodus. Oh my gosh, that's it for today's Bible reading. Exodus and Leviticus and Deuteronomy can be a little overwhelming to read. There are so many rules and regulations, but if there's one thing I remember every time I read those books, it's that Jesus covered it all. And that is why those books today are so important. It's a reminder to us now that the blood of Christ covers it all. And thank God, because who could live up to that? Listen, my oxen are forever out beating up other oxen. If I didn't have the blood of Christ for that, can you imagine how much trouble I'd be in? I'm not mocking it. I'm just teasing. Is that how many there are? Faith, 641. Good night. Oh, I'm just glad because, yeah. Who can keep them all straight? I mean, they're all written down, but nobody can live by that amount of laws. I mean, the laws, most of them obviously don't apply. I don't want to say they don't apply. They don't fit into today's world as much. We don't have slaves. Most of us don't have oxen in our backyard. But you're right, Christy. The laws, I mean, as far as most of them probably originated from the Bible, as far as theft and, if your animal attacks the neighbor's animal, there are laws around that. So yes, they do kind of line up, but who can keep track of all those? Most of them are moral things. We know today that if our animal destroys another animal, that somebody's got to come good for it. It's usually the person whose animal destroyed the other. But at least if I knock out my neighbor's tooth, I don't have to be put to death. I'm grateful for that. All right. Trim Healthy Devotions. 100 Days of Inspiration. We are on day 38. Whoa. What's up with that banner? Why that? Why is that so, I don't know. I don't know how it got like that. Whatever. How did it get like that? Right there. There we go. I'm very picky. All right, you guys. Day 39. His greatest need. As a woman, we long for love and security, but not more than anything else, a man longs for the respect and honor from his wife. It is a God-given instinct that we as wives need to understand. He will never be truly happy until he has it, and when he does, look out, world, he will feel that he can face anything. I'm sure not preaching to you because I fall down on this one too. We can love our husband, yet not show the respect and honor that he needs. The amplified version of Ephesians 5:33 explains it very clearly. Let the wife see that she respects and reverences her husband, that she notices him, regards him, honors him, prefers him, venerates and esteems him, and that she defers to him, praises him, and loves and admires him exceedingly. What a challenge. Honor your husband with your words and the way in which you speak to him. Honor him with the way you look at him. Honor him, for this is what you are meant to do. Does your husband sit at the head of the table? Does he have a special chair? We show our honor in little practical things too. I think that's a hard one in today's world. It really is, because there are things that my husband and I disagree on, but I defer to him on. There are situations that I would do things differently that I defer to him on, that I respect his wishes on, that I honor his feelings on, that I may not necessarily agree with, but I can tell you it's what's expected of me as a Christian woman. And even though the world doesn't get that, I've had conversations at work before where I have said, I defer to my husband on certain things, and I will get this look of, I'm sorry, you what? I do what I want because I am a woman, hear me roar type of an attitude. And I totally disagree with that. And the world looks at that as cuckoo pants. I mean, just watch some sitcoms. And how they treat men. Men are morons on the sitcoms. I have yet to see a sitcom where the husband is respected and the wife is made fun of. I'm not saying it's okay to make fun of the wife either, but I've yet to see one in that direction. But you see it in the other direction all the time. Everybody loves Raymond, but she makes him out to be a fool all the time. And that is just not how we should be treating our husbands. And yes, you're right, Sarah. The world will ridicule you for it. But you know what? Who cares? I ain't here pleasing the world. If I was here to please the world, there'd be a lot of things in my life that would be different. So, yes, Sarah, you're right. You're right. If we teach our boys to be respectful and loving of women and to look for a Christian woman, then hopefully they will find a woman that honors and respects them. Hopefully, it goes both ways. It absolutely goes both ways. But at the same time, they're going to be ridiculed for that, and that's all there is to it, because it's 2022 and we live in a weird world. All right, designed for this hour. I'm so covered in dog hair today. My father-in-law battled lymphoma cancer at the same time my young husband fought his own battle with cancer. I prayed and felt I was trusting in God, but I confess that my anxiety, exhaustive efforts, and absolute obsession with food purity revealed the truth. I wore the burden that it was up to me to save their lives. If I did not get up at 5 a.m. every morning and make gallons of fresh juice, their lives would be cut short. If I bought commercial zucchinis and scrimped on the organic sprouted pumpkin seeds, I wouldn't have a husband to hold me or tuck our children into bed. Hogwash. It was a ploy from the enemy to steal my joy and make food an idol. We do our best with a carefree trust in God, but we dare not take away from his sovereignty. He is bigger than GMO foods that might be laced in the potluck. He is mightier than our modern depleted soils and oceans filled with heavy metals. He designed us for 2014, 2015, and counting. 2022. He did not choose us to live in the little house on the prairie days. That's why we're here today, with all of its problems and pollutions. He has a plan for you and your children to fulfill that living with cell phones cannot. He has a plan for you and your children to fulfill that living with cell phones cannot retract. Trust God and don't wear the burden any longer. Jeremiah 17:5 says, Thus saith the Lord, Cursed be the man that trusteth in man, and make flesh in his arm, and whose heart departeth from the Lord. Serene. Man, this is a good one today. That is so true. It's very easy to get wrapped up in the purity. I was just talking about that this morning on some videos that I was recording for Patreon. It is easy to get wrapped up in I have to make this from scratch. I have to make that from scratch because this is healthier, that is healthier. But it is okay. It is okay to drive through Sue things. It's okay. And the burden of everybody's life in our family. Can we make better choices and healthier choices? Absolutely. But is it on us to completely 100% prevent cancer in our lives? And no. God is bigger than all of that. Nothing without cost. If I never worked, I will never be rewarded. If I never have enemies, I will never have something to stand up for. If I never fight, I will never triumph. If I never experience the worst, I will never appreciate the best. Good things are never free, but there is one thing we cannot earn ourselves, and that is salvation. If Jesus had never died on earth, we would never live in heaven. This is so good today. Such a good day. Such a good day. That is so true. There was a reel one time on the old Insta that was a clip from a movie where Morgan Freeman played God. I don't care for the movie, but this clip he said, "You ask me to give you courage, but then you don't want me giving you a reason to be courageous. What if God gives us what if we ask God for strength? He's going to give us a reason to be strong. He's not just going to say, boom, you're strong. He's going to give you a reason to develop your strength. If you pray for courage in the face of a situation, is he just going to say, boom, here's courage, zap you with courage? Or is he going to give you a reason to be courageous? If we pray for stronger faith, is he just going to suddenly blast us with supernatural faith? Or is he going to give us a reason to show our faith? Patience is another one. We pray for patience all the time. I pray for patience. I have none. I pray for God, give me patience. Listen, he continually gives me a reason to be patient. He continually gives me a reason to practice my patience, to show patience. Does he just zap me with supernatural patience, or does he give me a way to develop that patience? It's a different way of looking at things. I think we just often pray, wishing we'd get the supernatural. There you go, KJ. There's the answer to your prayer. But usually it comes in the form of developing those things. I remember my parents praying one time to test their faith. And even back then, I remember them praying it and me thinking, what are they doing? And my mom was diagnosed with cancer shortly thereafter. There were other things that happened, but man, their faith got tested. And it grew and strengthened and refined them. But still, if you pray for faith, he's going to give you a reason to develop it. All right, guys. Thank you for joining me for our devotions this morning. It was a good one. I am going to be making a simple breakfast. Why do I say that out loud? It's never simple. I don't even know what I'm making. I do, but I don't. I have sourdough naan bread that I made last night, and I'm going to make a breakfast sandwich out of it. It should be relatively quick and simple. Before that, I have to go get the doggy out of bed. So I will be live in a few minutes for breakfast, and I hope to see you there. I love you all. See you back tomorrow for more whatever this is. Devotions. Love you guys.